listeners. I'm Anna, head of marketing at Synthflow AI. I'm super excited to have you all here today for what's going to be a really insightful conversation on the current and future state of voice AI. Joining me today is our CEO, Hakob, and Chief Product Officer, Albert. Both are co-founders of Synthflow. Welcome, guys.
Hello.
Hello. Hi.
And our guest of honor today is Davit, CEO and co-founder of Krisp, an early pioneer in voice AI with 20 years of experience in engineering and over 18 patents application. Welcome, Davit.
Hey, folks! I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. To give a short overview, Krisp is a market leader in voice AI, building AI noise cancellation, accent localization, and AI note taker. Krisp technologies are deployed over 200 million devices across the world and process 75 billion of conversation every month. Our guest, Davit, also runs Voice AI newsletter, which we all read every time it comes out. I highly recommend subscribing to it. And whether you're building an AI, leading a team, or just curious about voice AI or where it's going, this session should be giving you a ton of information to think about. Please ask your questions in the chat, and we'll be checking them and answering them in the second part of the webinar. Without further ado, let's get into it. And my first question is for Davit. What are the key trends you're seeing today in voice AI and agentic AI overall?
Sure. I think that's maybe Hakob and Albert would be a better fit to answer that, because you guys are like riding that new wave of voice AI, right? So you're basically building voice agents or like infrastructure for voice agents. That's not something we do. We have some internal things actually going on there, but I'm not ready to share about them yet. But yeah, I think like the voice agents are the biggest thing, and everything related to how to make these voice agents more robust, higher accuracy, and deliver better ROI for customers, right? There is a lot of technologies behind that, right, that make it possible. So we can talk about these in particular, but starting from speech to text, which is probably a big problem for voice agents today, and going to like turn taking and text to speech and reasoning and all of that, of course, is all of them are big deals.
Yeah, that's a great start. I think then we can pass it over to Albert, our CPO, to talk about this. What kind of trends you see, Albert, that are catching your attention right now?
Yes, definitely. Thank you very much, David. So right now, I think when it comes to how smart LLMs are or how capable the voice AI is on its own, it works really well. The models got bigger, the models got more capable. So we are basically solving other parts of the problem, which is, for example, the workflows and other parts of the orchestration. And one important part is also, of course, the background noise cancellation. And we integrated and tested Krisp, which is very good, especially the latency part of Krisp of your solution, which hardly has any impact on our overall latency. And it also improved the turn taking. We tested with our users, and it definitely works better. And we made it a default in our orchestration. And then, of course, as you mentioned, exactly the transcriber quality, it got better, but Then there is a bunch of improvement for the quality when it comes to other languages other than English. This is something that we're improving currently, and then other things like, for example, testing AI assistants. It's something that users really want to have, especially bigger users. And yes, maybe Hakob can share more infos.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I think like most of the points you have covered. Maybe one thing to add also is that the trend in voice AI we're seeing right now is like as it gets more and more adoption across the board, across the companies, is that how like human-like it is becoming, right? Um, and I remember like the first versions of this technology, the main feedback was it was very robotic, right? But now it becomes more and more human-like simulating even like showing emotions, right, to some degree, and all these points that David and Albert mentioned, right, like canceling the noise behind, having the proper turn taking. So we are seeing this big trend that it's actually becoming so good that it is already replacing like humans for particular tasks, right? Especially like the simpler tasks on the phone, like the repetitive recurring calls. Yeah, and I think the next things that will happen, I think this is a different topic, but it's like, okay, what's next, right? What actions can AI do by itself? How self-sufficient it can become? But I think we can cover that a bit later.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you so much for this icebreaker. Moving on to David. As a leader in the real-time voice technology, Krisp serves major global companies, and the topic of today's webinar is challenges in voice AI. So I'm curious how a business is adopting this new generation of voice AI right now versus previously. Do you see like a major shift, and what are the challenges that you're seeing?
Yeah, sure. Look, like Krisp is clearly, I mean, the technologies we have built and the products we have built are are a bit different than Synthflow, right? So like this is a good way of like covering, I guess, like both worlds, like where we are coming from. Like when we started the company, that was 7 years ago, we have focused highly on human-to-human conversations, right? There was no like human-to-AI conversation back 7 years ago. It was actually embarrassing to call it AI. What we were doing like was machine learning. So it was a very different time back then. But we have focused on human-to-human conversations, and so we started with the noise cancellation technology to improve like the conversations like this, right? When humans talk to each other. And so we pioneered noise cancellation. It took us some time to start like integrating into like enterprises and so on. But then like early on, like we understood, okay, that's like at some point noise cancellation is going to be widely used, and it's not going to be like I mean, we need other technologies as well, right? So we started investing in something called accent conversion, AI accent conversion. And that's like the technology that is like the new technology that we have, that we are pushing in the market. Actually, we just made a big launch yesterday where we brought our accent conversion to our note taker product. The accent conversion has a big usage in call centers, right? So back to your question, like what challenges we see. I mean, there are different kind of challenges, right? Like one is just the perception of AI. Like people are still, some companies are still slow to adopt AI. They want to understand like what is going to be the perception of this. Like simple things such as should we announce to if it's deployed in call centers, should we announce to the caller that there is an AI technology being used or not? Like things like from things like those to like the quality of the technologies, right? That the quality I think is not there yet for pretty much all the voice AI stuff. I mean, there will be early adopters of this, and we see that that traffic is growing in voice AI, but compared to, let's say, with noise cancellation, which is a bit smaller scope technology, and the impact of it is not like it's not impacting the criticality of the business conversation, especially in the human to human context. Like it has like huge deployment today, but when we think about like voice agents or accent conversion, I mean like speech to speech translation, like real time translation, these are like very early today. And basically two challenges, as I said: technology and accuracy and quality. And then the second challenge is just the perception in the industry, right? Are people ready for this or not? And both are going to be improved, and I think like 25 is going to be a big year for voice AI, but we just need to go over these challenges one by one and fix them.
Great. And what would be like the year when voice AI is truly adopted, you think, if it's not coming from 2025?
Well, it depends what we mean by truly adopted, right? Like one fact, it's not I don't know if it's a fact or just reality. Like as I said, like we started with human to human conversations, but as voice agents have become more important, so like the industry pulled us into this AI to human conversations, or like conversational AI, or like as we call them, voice agents. So apparently noise cancellation is a big deal, as Hakob and Albert were saying. Turn taking is a big problem for voice agents. They literally don't know or get confused when to interrupt users, right? Humans in conversations, and when there is background noise, it becomes more prevalent. So the industry pulled our technology. Like we were not sure, like why are people using this on server side? Why how should Krisp improve actually voice agents? But then like we realized it's the turn taking problem. So with that, in the last 3 months, pretty much all the major companies have integrated Krisp into their voice agents. And I think like if I were to estimate, it's probably like 70 to 80% of the traffic is now served by Krisp's technology, right? The noise cancellation before it's handed to, basically to improve turn taking. So we have some visibility into how much traffic there is for voice agents, and the growth of this traffic. And I think like in 25, the traffic will grow probably like 3-4x in B2B, like way faster in B2C because of like, I don't know, ChatGPT's voice mod or Grok's voice mod and others. But in B2B, it's probably going to grow like 3x. And to answer your question, like when it's going to be like taking all over the world, I think there is a potential of growing 100x, and I think that will happen in the next 3 years, right?
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. Hakob, passing it to you. What are the top challenges that you think companies face when they are adopting voice AI technologies?
Yes, sure. So talking about enterprises, right? I think this is probably very recently, like very large companies started considering this technology because I think it matured to the point where it's already deployable in many cases in production. But the challenges these companies face are, first of all, how do they actually deploy it in their existing tech stack or ecosystem is a better word here. Like thinking about large contact centers, right, where humans do the calls, and suddenly you're probably not replacing everyone, but replacing some particular volume of the calls. And but you have an existing telephony system, right? And then you have to integrate there. You probably have other tools like CRMs and setting up that workflow, right? And really going through that process of kind of integrating AI and making part of your company is a very tricky process. And if you make their mistakes, right, and choose the wrong provider, for example, right, and like make this mistake, you can delay your launch by, let's say, a year, and by that time your competitors or other companies have already launched, and you're just like missing out a huge, it's not even a market, it's like a medium, right? You're missing out an entire technological shift here. And I think that's the main challenge that large companies face right now, is like, how do I quickly, right, come to the point where I have tested everything, I've integrated, it does exactly what I want it to do, so that I can go into production. And of course, that also brings like wide array of other challenges, right, with it, technological. And just on a quick note here, I think that in the past, right, the companies were used to get the providers, right, and get into like very long-term contracts, and they didn't even know what they would get, right? It was like, they said it was a black box, right? And time to value would be like 9-12 months until you could actually test it. But I think it has completely changed right now, and with the platforms like Synthflow or others, you can actually get to that point very quickly, within few weeks, and without any large upfront financial commitments, to see if that actually works for your case, and does it actually completely integrate into your ecosystem. Yeah.
This is really great. What about you, Albert? Would you like to add something else in terms of challenges from the product perspective when you're implementing them for companies?
No, not really. So this, I would actually confirm what Hakob said. On top, maybe bigger companies, they need reliability and scalability, of course, and managing this large volumes on scale. And exactly, this is another part, not really related to voice, but infrastructure. But yeah, so these things also matter.
Yeah, let's then talk about noise cancellation and voice cancellation SDK. Davit, congrats on launching that. And it seems like a really big deal for clarity in live conversations, especially in call centers. Are there any specific use cases, maybe for like live sales calls or like at a customer service in particular, where it really stands out, or like voice-to-voice apps? We would be curious to know.
Yeah, thanks for that. We just launched it like this month, but actually it has been being integrated in the last several months. It's a server-side SDK. It's as Albert said, it's really like low latency. It only adds 15 millisecond latency to the conversation, and what it does on server side, it removes the background noise and voice coming from the user, right, who talks to the AI. And by doing that, it improves the quality of turn taking, which is mostly based on voice activity detection today, but also might improve the transcription quality as well, right? We have a really nice article on this on our blog, like explaining what would you expect being improved. The turn taking and the VAD especially, the improvement is like 2-3x. So like the impact is pretty significant. So yeah, like we have now Python SDK and Go SDK where developers can integrate like easily. This runs on CPUs. That's another advantage, right? You don't have to allocate GPU for this. So like a lightweight model that is designed for this. And the biggest benefit is really like the voice cancellation, right? When there is someone in the background talking, and you have like other people talking in the background, the transcription really gets confused. So with Krisp, it's going to focus on the primary speaker, right? So that's like essentially what we have launched. And I wouldn't say that like there are particular verticals where the impact is going to be more, because like really the impact is when like when you think about humans, like humans can tolerate noise to some extent, right? If noise cancellation is not there, we can still like have the conversation. It will be annoying, frustrating, but the conversation will not end, right? But with human to AI conversations, the AI really gets confused. It starts to interrupt you. It starts to misunderstand you, and so the whole conversation just breaks down. And that's why like this is a higher pain, or like the impact is just higher, and that's why like it's a big deal. Now, like imagine like you're using a conversational AI application with your kids, and I use it a lot. So I tell something to AI, and then it starts to respond, and the kid laughs or says something, and then it just stops. The AI stops and or interrupts and just gets confused. So even in that scenario, which is like a B2C uh, like a, scenario, it has a big impact, right? So I think like this technology is very horizontal. And it impacts all the scenarios, and it just makes the whole experience better for all like voice agents.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see how all this why and why from kids gonna be transformed with voice AI apps. Like when you're can anytime like find an answer to your kid's question. Yeah, thank you so much for all the questions. By the way, listeners in the chat, we're gonna soon turn to those Q&A. So please keep them coming. And one of the last questions that we have for the team and for all is like, Hakob, I guess for you first. With the US alone handling over 100 billion conversations, both B2B and B2C every year, and it's going to increase tenfold. How do you see voice AI evolving over the next upcoming years, even 1 or 5? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's going to be step by step. Like we'll have different stages of evolution here. I think the most immediate thing that we will see is that AI, like just a conversational component, that it will become extremely human-like. And what I mean by that is having this emotional component in the conversation. Maybe a good example everyone is talking about is that movie from several years ago, Her, where AI is extremely empathetic, right? When it talks and understands the context better and can even capture emotions and play it back. I think in a bit more midterm, after that, I can imagine already switching from human to AI situation to actually AI talking to AI. So imagine like an outbound voice AI calling and inbound AI answering. And I think these conversations either will end by then, so they will basically converge to a result. For example, an AI wants to schedule an appointment, the other AI takes that appointment and schedules that. And in other cases, they will basically clarify, imagine like the very first call between humans, gather information, pass it through humans, and then when the humans actually get together to talk about stuff, they already have a lot of context and information, and they can actually focus on more meaningful stuff and probably like negotiation part where humans don't have to spend time on these first steps. Yeah, I think that's already something I can see in the horizon. In the very far long-term future, it's, I think, very hard to say. So I will not comment on that for now.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you so much. I think it's a great time to turn into great questions that we have from the audience. I know there is an option to like show them on the screen. So let's see the first one coming from Timo. Let's talk about languages other than English. The models are not that good, maybe at spelling email addresses or phone numbers right now, even if it's spelled character for character. Why is that, and when this will be no problem anymore?
Yes, I can maybe answer that. So the transcriber quality is getting better, and we see new models also being released, and we definitely see improvements there. And I think in very soon we will be able to release features that is going to work very, very reliably to capture information via voice.
Yeah, every month Space with their new model appears, so hopefully that's gonna be fixed soon. Yeah, let's keep them coming. As the next question on the screen, when will we have audio to audio instead of text to speech and speech to text, so that the agent can have better emotions, tones, and delivery? That would make agents way more human sounding.
Yeah, I can cover this one. So the models are already out there, as you know, right? From OpenAI, there is a new model from Sesame, which is like captures the emotions very well. So the only reason, and you can actually already use those in some particular situations. The only reason this is not widespread at this moment has a commercial reason. These models are very expensive, voice-to-voice models. So if you would deploy an OpenAI voice-to-voice model, it would be roughly between 20 and 30 cents per minute. Whereas with Synthflow, it's like 10 cents, 12 cents, depending on packages. It can go as low as 8 cents, maybe even less, depending on the volume, right? And I think that's the reason. And when you as a company want to deploy these models, it means you probably need to charge more to your customer. And right now we don't see that readiness for that to pay that much. But to be frank, I think very rapidly the costs will go down for the voice-to-voice models. So hopefully, as soon as end of this year, maybe even the third quarter, we will have a situation where these things will become very commercially viable on scale.
Yeah, let's talk about latency. And I think that question maybe we can address to David. Like, what do you think is a great latency on a call? Like, you see it throughout the industry. Maybe you can give us some stats, what you're seeing across. And right now, the standard is like 1600 for like live. Do you think it's going to be dropping? You know, like, what are those experiments and trends?
Yeah, I mean, like as a company, Krisp doesn't do like cloud services. Like, so our technology is usually integrated into cloud services, like others' cloud services, like within Synthflow infrastructure or others, right? So we don't measure latency, end-to-end latencies for voice agents. But I can clearly, like, I don't know if I would be curious to hear Hakob's or Albert's opinion here. From what I've heard, people are able to get to like 800 millisecond, like consistent latency. There are folks that have, you know, that were able to go lower than that, to 300, maybe to 300 to 500 range. I don't know if it's possible to actually sustain that, or it's like a one-off situation when it goes down to that. But there are multiple factors contributing to latency, right? Including network, but also the latency coming from speech to text, text to speech, and then the reasoning models, right? So, but I'm curious to hear, like, what's the sort of the standard latency on Synthflow platform, if you guys can share that.
Yeah, I think I can start, and Albert, if you have anything to add, feel free. Generally, yeah, I think like 800 should be something to target. I think it really also depends on the context and on the customer, like the way they deploy it, in which situations, right? There are also like parameters you can adjust. I think in best cases with best for performing components, right? Let's say using expensive models and so on. Like even 500, 600 milliseconds is achievable. But in most situations, probably what you mentioned, David, that's is good enough, right? And also we have to think about like the context that this AI is being deployed, because sometimes AI has to do very simple tasks and it's not extremely critical to have like human-like latency. Sometimes it is. So I think there is this range right now, but technically on Synthflow, like even very, very fast, like 600, 500 is definitely possible.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I can actually confirm that it's been a very long time since we heard any issues or complaints about latency. I think we're past the point that latency is an issue in general. But yeah, at the same time, the latency also should be a bit human-like. So if it's way too low, it's going to become a bit unnatural. So that's also an important aspect. But latency is, yeah, I think it's one of the problems that, yeah, I don't know, maybe I can say it's solved for voice assistants mostly. But of course, it also depends on the traffic and you know the network, how much traffic is there and everything like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's also talk about some practical workflows and applications. There's a question from Michael regarding, yeah, two things. Thanks so much for the compliment. Agents with memory. If Hakob, you can note on that, and then action to take credit card information. What are your thoughts about an option for agents to reference all past calls by phone number as a history, and the native, native integration to get the credit card info?
Yeah, I will cover the second one, and the first one,
Yeah,
I will leave to Albert. So on the second one, I'm not aware of that feature. Maybe you can send us an email and we can check. Generally, we are very like we're a compliant company. Like we have compliances, and we need to check some practices we cannot do, some we do. Credit card is certainly something we need to check if this is compliant with current regulations, and if that, yeah, and then we can provide more information on this. And the first one I'll defer to Albert.
yeah, I can confirm. So yeah, collecting, gathering email, phone number information, it's gonna be way more reliable soon for sure. Credit card is a bit tricky. I cannot say much regarding the memory. It's a feature that we're working now, and it's in testing. And we are going to release very soon the first version. And yeah, it's quite an amazing feature, and I think users will be very excited about it. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds good. And this question is for David and also for Hakob. David, you have like operate across the globe as well. Like, do you want to comment on how like government regulations aim to protect users from unauthorized voice data collection and fraud, like being present across different countries? Maybe you can answer that first, and then we'll defer to Hakob.
Sure. Look, there are two things I want to say. Like one is first, I have a lot of security and privacy background. I used to be the head of product security at Twilio. So at that scale, we obviously have seen in many sort of privacy sort of policies and issues. Like one thing we have done at Krisp early on is we actually came up with an architecture or preferred an architecture where a voice is not sent to our servers at all, right? So the voice in our applications have always stayed on device, on the user's device, and hasn't been actually stored. It was always processed on end user's device. So for a long time, we have not been even exposed to any audio, right, on our servers. So like passing security reviews with enterprises was very, very easy for us. So that was like a really good decision back then. Well, now we have some products at Krisp, in particular the note taker product that we have that does process and store audio and voice. And really, I think there are like the world, not much has changed in the world when it comes to like how do you process sensitive data, right? Like the cloud-based companies have been doing this for years, and like it really boils down to two things. First, you need to have like world-class security infrastructure and team and processes and tools and so on, right? And like every company needs to invest in that early on, especially like the voice agent companies, because of the sensitivity of the conversations that their users are having. So that's like one, and it must be like a serious investment. And they're like the world knows how to do this. Not every company is doing it, but the best practices are pretty well known, right, in that regard. The second is, of course, regulations and compliance, right? So depending on what jurisdictions and regions you're operating in, you just need to comply with these regulations. And that as well is usually like the security team's scope. And as long as the business understands how to deal with this, how to be compliant, how to follow regulations and what regulations to follow, what verticals to enter and not enter based on their capabilities. I think like I think it's totally doable. And also like there is not much new in this, right? Like people, again, as I said, like people have been dealing with data in cloud for a very long time. So like the new things that have been added and are recent are things such as like how do you call them, like the voice cloning and like impersonation when hijacking, right? This kind of things are new, and yeah, those are like new type of risks in the security space, yeah, especially when they are used by scammers and other entities. But the rest is pretty much like well known in the industry.
Perfect.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think it was a really good overview of the security and like some of the challenges. And I think will be wrapping up soon. Thank you so much for all the questions that we have in the chat. And a lot of our listeners are actually business owners and agency owners. And we would like to give like a lightning round for everyone here. Like, what advice would you give to businesses looking to implement voice AI, contextual voice AI? Hakob?
Yeah, look, to sum it up, basically, I think it's very important to choose your provider carefully and understand, is it going to cater your business needs? And good news is that we, with this new technology and open platforms like Synthflow, you don't have to incur any upfront costs. Basically, for free or with a very little investment, you can completely test, evaluate voice AI solution to see if it fits your needs, right? And also you don't have to incur anymore this, we know it from the past generation companies, like 9 months, 12 months implementation periods. You can go into production as fast as within weeks, maybe like a month or two, depending how complicated the use case is. Yeah, and what I would really advise all business owners is to do their due diligence, evaluate the platform, check the costs. The price is very important. It's a very democratized space, so you don't have to overpay. And then actually make your decision based on this.
David, would you like to share some departing notes also on your advice for business owners or agency owners looking to implement voice AI inside their companies?
All right, I'm back. I had some issue with my connection. Yeah, look, I think like there are so many companies that are implementing voice AI today. I think like there is it's a prime time for voice AI, right? Be it voice agents, be it like user to AI conversations, but also like human to human conversations as well, right? I know like, and I'm sure like you guys will agree, there is a lot of experimentation happening pretty much in every enterprise. Every company we talk to, they are doing something internally. They are using, they are either building their own stuff or they are leveraging platforms like Synthflow or others. And I think like the general consensus is that yes, this is valuable technology. Yes, we want to have this in our product, in our customer service, in perhaps like in sales, and so on. I think like people are just very cautious like with deploying this technology, especially enterprises. There are a couple of things that must happen before this starts to like really pick up, and the consistency of the technology is one. Especially on the hallucinations part, right? Like it must be solved. It like the models are getting better and better, but depending on like the business criticality of where you deploy it, of course, this becomes more important. Like if the bot is gonna, fail like 10% of times, that might not be acceptable for many industries, right? So but what we see from the industry is that this like percent by percent, the accuracy and reliability keeps improving. And once it hits a certain number, I think everyone, like all these experiments are going to become production, right? Go to production. So like really, I think like the industry has I feel like has a pretty good, starting to get like a really good grasp on the potential of the technology, and technology, like the quality of technology is also getting there. So again, like 25 is probably going to be a big turning point for voice AI.
Yeah, hopefully. Thank you so much, David, for joining us today at our inaugural B2B webinar series. And thank you for all your questions, guys, in the chat. And we'll be hosting those every 2 weeks. The next one will be a Thursday in 2 weeks in April. And our guest will be Daniel from the CEO and co-founder of Choco, a leading AI platform for food supply and the unicorn. So we'll be sending invitations later today. Thanks so much, Hakob, Albert, and David, and see you next time.
Thank you very much. Thanks for joining, David. Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you.